Welcome to a weekly energy update. My name is Jona Bryndis. I'm an energy coach, energy therapist, and visionary. And once a week, I reflect or report about collective energies that are already there. And if you are energetically sensitive or call yourself an empath, then you will know what this is that I'm reporting about, namely these collective energies, as I call them. Those are energies that are already there, that we are all picking up on, that are impacting us, but that are difficult to talk about. This is not necessarily based on an astrological reading or anything like that, although in the past I've noticed that there are lots of similarities, lots of parallels. So those of you, for example, who are interested in astrology, you will find that the energy updates are very similar to a degree. It's just that I read these energies out from a different perspective, and I'm always happy to see how this coincides. A big part of these energy updates is allowing ourselves to understand that we are not solitary beings, that we are not alone in this world, and that there are greater cycles, that there are layers. I think this is all familiar to all of you. And here in this week 16, I call this inflation. That's, stay curious why I call it this way. We are going through some really, really big transformational steps. And this is something that when you hear this, it sounds all woo, but let me break this down for you, because a big task right now, this is this Easter time. Yes, it's part of the seasonal tasking that we are perceiving. It has to do with nature, with the lunar cycle. So in this next week, we'll find a very, very powerful full moon. And that full moon affects us in ways, like all full moons, that want to bring things to closure. The old things, old ways want to be cleared out so that there is more space for new things. And this is sort of the overall understanding of this transformational time right now, that right here, right now, a lot of things are being determined. And our job is to find the middle ground. This middle ground energy or notion is very, very strong here in this next week. In other words, something that we've talked about in the energy talk on Wednesday, juggling 3D experiences with the experience of ourselves as soul selves, as spirit beings. And there's obviously things that come in that once we regard ourselves as a soul being, as a fundamentally spirit being, yeah, etheric, if you will, we recognize that there can be a contradiction, or there can be a different reality. Say, if you see your life as a 3D sort of matter-related life, yeah. So it's basically the the schism or the contradiction between seeing life as something material, yeah, machine-like, if you will, and seeing something based on energy or based on frequencies, yeah, which is the energetic, the spirit being in us. And this is basically, where, these big contradictions or these big controversies in life, where they culminate, and that is, what was there first? Yeah, are we talking about evolution or creation? Is there something here that has created us, like in a sense of just sort of creating the material, yeah, and putting it there, placing it there? Are we placed here? Yeah, is this a something that comes with an intention? Is there a purpose behind this, or have we just sort of randomly developed? Yeah, are we higher animal beings? Yeah, are we just a product of sort of natural evolution, yeah, that is basically regarding the materium, as sort of the way to evolve. And many of you I'm sure, have already found out that there is a middle ground, that there is, this combination of, nature versus nurture. It's not a versus. We realize that if we change our attitude toward life, yeah, trying to see it as either or, yeah, that there is a middle ground. So this is metaphysically seen the Trinity, yeah, as opposed to dealing with good and bad, or black and white, or dark and light, to basically go into this place where we can conjoin things, where we can merge things and see that it's a combo. It's a combo of both, yeah, nature and nurture. It's a combo of materium and ethereum, if you will. It's a combo of this same reality on different, or seen on different levels, different layers, different dimensions. So this is where the word dimension comes from. A different dimension doesn't necessarily change the reality itself, it changes the perspective. Yeah, so that is something that we all are very accustomed to, namely how in our everyday 3D life, a change in perspective can lead to a change in perception. And the change in perception then leads to a change in reality. Can you guys all follow me? Yeah, so it's the sudden insight that we have about certain things that we do, maybe the relationship that we have, the place that we live in, the job that we do, the way we see life itself, the way we see God or spirituality. These insights, yeah, these inspirations that we have that begin to show us a different reality. So we basically, as humans, have a choice here, and this is the part that needs to come to our awareness. This is basically sort of this the spiritual energy here of this next week, is that you can choose how you want to regard life, how you want to see the world and yourself in it. You can see it as material only, as something that has a beginning and an end. So when you are born, you begin, and when you die, you end. That would be the material perspective. If you look at things from a spiritual perspective, then you may see life as something that is cyclic, yeah, that maybe you believe in reincarnation, yeah, where you see this is one lifetime out of many lifetimes, because ultimately what drives me and my consciousness forward is not the actual physical existence, but it is that spirit being in me, yeah, that relates, or that draws its power from the eternal heart, yeah, the eternal, like, higher dimensional existence, yeah, and these physical manifestations are merely sort of fleeting events, yeah, in the bigger picture of my spiritual evolution. And then, and this is the one that I recommend for you to investigate, you have or you can have a viewpoint where you see both of them coexisting. And why would I say this? Why is it beneficial? The most of you are spiritually inclined. I don't need to really remind you of the fact that you have a soul, that you're soul with a body, right? But what happens here is sort of the practical realism, yeah, in our daily lives. It's that we forget the one or the other. Yeah, we may have a tendency to get pulled too far out into the spirit world and forget that there is a 3D reality that we still have to contend with. Or we get pulled into our survival fears, we get pulled into our fear of, say, losing our life. This is a very materialistic way of looking at life. Yeah, and we end up in a place where all our life's decisions and the mindset behind that and the intentions and so forth become very limited, reduced to your physical existence only. And this is our day-to-day business, if you will. Yeah, all of you, I think, will agree with this, that what we experience as inner confliction and, sort of the opposite of inner peace is this need to constantly juggle those two parts of us. And spirituality looks at, especially sort of the energetic spirituality, looks at what happens to a person's psyche and also body and also soul connection, true self connection, when they are living a life in either of the extremes. Because extremes are things in nature, for example, that always require a certain force to react. Okay, extremes are typically not sustainable. Just look at weather patterns, for example, or look at extreme wealth, extreme fame, extreme poverty. Yeah, all these extremes, even war is a good example. That's an extreme situation. Those type of conditions aren't sustainable for evolution. They may be catalytic in their nature. In other words, they can trigger things that can force the world or the people or ourselves, depending on which level they take place, to react to it, to make changes. And this is basically the roundup of what we're experiencing right now. We are constantly living in this contrast, and we constantly have to juggle these two realities in us. But right now we are experiencing this sort of mirrored in the outer world, probably more than ever before. Yeah, because on one hand, we have a very strong tendency in our collective, and we feel this within ourselves as well, to investigate sort of the secrets of the universe, the deeper aspects of being. Meanwhile, we also observing the dehumanization in our society, be it through digital ID or internet porn or wars or these financial things that are sort of looming here as the next doom. All right, and what it is now that we need to really feel out, is how we can navigate through this without going into either extreme. And the reason why I've called this next week inflation, obviously there's a word play. I choose my words very, very consciously, because there's codes in every word. Words have power. And the reason is not to point your attention to the financial aspects that are going on, the economic aspects that are going on here in our world. Yeah, the Western world has produced money out of nothingness, especially in the last, 14 years since the last financial crisis. Yeah, in the amount of money circulating here in the United States is 11-fold. Yeah, in Europe it's 10-fold. All right, this doesn't take a rocket scientist or a macro economic degree to figure out that this is not sustainable. That's an extreme. Okay, so even if you just sort of follow your own inner common sense, if you will, you know that is something that cannot be held up. Yeah, we've had a distribution of wealth here, especially in these last 2 years during the pandemic, that has opened up this rift between rich and poor even further than it was before. And so these are all things that many of you are aware of. And if you want to sort of juggle this with your spiritual understanding, you're going to have to understand that these things have a purpose as well. So this looming doom, as the mass media and conspiracy theorists place this, is something, by the way, in the history of mankind, has always sort of been the theme of the day, like the next apocalypse. All right, so you got to understand that comes from our ego mind's fear of the unknown. This is in if you investigate the nature of that, intrinsically dark. Okay, that's the inner darkness that we have, that we're always afraid of the unknown future. That the apocalyptic portrayal of that is not very sophisticated from a spiritual perspective. From a spiritual perspective, you can see that things such as going through a technological development, going through the need for us to learn how to deal with things like this. This is part of our spiritual evolution. So we cannot pretend, for example, that technology doesn't exist. That this would be naive. And this is why, many of us have sort of created a lifestyle that others may have called fringe dwelling, or, somehow like outcast lifestyle, because there were certain things that we've refused. And this now needs to become more balanced. Okay, there is no way for us, even as spiritually aware people, to ignore the things that are there. At the end of the day, we have to go to the grocery store, we have to go to the gas station, we have to go pay for things that everybody else needs to pay for, and we have to do this with money, and we have to find ways how to produce money through our lifestyles and so forth. So it's very idealistic to think that we can only exist in a spiritual realm and not participate in 3D. The realism of this spiritual situation here that we are in is that we have to contend with straddling these two worlds. And the solution is the middle ground, is the harmonizing of that and forming a very, very clear way of feeling and thinking and handling that, a very clear and conscious way. This is why these past developments that we had here in these months leading up from December, they were all geared toward us becoming more aware and making more conscious choices. So you're going to have to understand the function and purpose of money, the function and purpose of war, for example, the function and purpose of inflation, and the function and purpose of your own body, like anatomy, immune system. This was the theme here for the last 2 years. To get to know your own immune system better, that's a physical 3D material reality. And conjoin this with your mindset. Just as a reminder here, that the whole corona situation became inflated because of the material fear, because people were steered into believing that everybody who gets COVID dies, right? Whereas in reality, the survival rate was more than 99%, even in the beginning. It was never the case that corona or the coronavirus or the COVID SARS-2 would extinct humanity. It was never actually a real material fact, okay? But our minds get steered, and we're all aware of this, into this inflated doom and gloom fear, that pulled all our energies out of our greater and bigger understanding of ourselves and our immune system, and these things that contribute to our health, out of or into this material perspective only, into this COVID test, positive or negative, sort of judgment about whether you were alive or not. I don't know if you can follow me here. I'm stumbling a little bit because it's hard to put this into words Yeah, when right now we're seeing this in hindsight. Yeah, well, many of us, some of you who live in Australia, New Zealand, you're still kind of lagging behind a bit. But those of you in South Africa or here in Florida or Denmark or Scandinavia, other Scandinavian countries, you already know what I'm talking about. All of the sudden, yeah, the whole sort of Corona thing is gone, all right, and we don't even remember what the problem was, and right there we have a new problem, and it's all 3D again. Yeah, that's about war. So this time, the next sort of apocalyptic doom and gloom event here for our eco mind is World War III, and that we all gonna die, and that soldiers are gonna run through our city. And do you see what I'm getting at? This is all like inflated materialism. And in that way, it's cancerous. So we're living in a time that where the materium has become cancerous. Yeah, it's like a tumor that begins to uncontrollably grow, yeah, and start eating up the organism. And the part here that is maybe hard to follow because I don't really go into politics so much, but the part here that needs to happen is that we need to begin seeing our life, our societies, and the different parts of our societies. So economy is one part, science is one part, then legislature is one part, or politics, if you will, that we begin to see our societies as an organism as well, that we recognize that this middle ground is in an understanding, yeah, that we as humans aren't just machines. Yeah, we don't function based on pre-programmed apps unless we allow that to happen. Okay, and this is the fight here that is happening in that etheric world that can be observed by those of you who are trained. Yeah, it's not about angels versus demons, guys. That's a very childish way of looking at spirituality. It's about manipulating your ability to choose. It's about suggesting to you that you have no choice by steering you into believing that you are material only. It's about basically making you forget that you have a choice. And when you forget that you have a choice, that's also when you forget that you have a soul. And that is extreme. That's dark. And that's why that doesn't feel good when you're in that place. Who of you knows what that feels like? When you forget that you have a soul, when you forget that you have a heart, when you forget that you're an organism and not a machine. For those of us who are energetically sensitive, that are empaths, that have trained this spiritual consciousness, it's an extremely painful state. It's something that we've experienced here in this last week or two. So we will start to feel a little bit relief now as this pain, yeah, this yearning for reconnecting with our soul becomes a little less extreme, say, yeah, where it becomes a little more practical. So in the forecast for April, I prepared you by saying this is a very pragmatic month. It's a month with extremely potent manifestation energies. And manifestation, guys, always means to bring your insights, yeah, your spiritual, your inspirations into the material, into the 3D. It is a transformation, alchemical, if you will, yeah, from something that was perceived by you as an insight as a conscious thought, a conscious choice, yeah, that you then take and translate, anchor into the physical. So all this talk now to just convey one message to you, and that is, how can you bring more balance into your life by integrating your spiritual views, your spiritual perspective, your connection with your own soul better into 3D? How can you produce or create a life that is more conducive, that is more aligned to who you are now? Yeah, and what are the steps that you need to take? Maybe you need to move to a different kind of home. Maybe you find out that you're living too isolated and that you would thrive more, that it would be more conducive for you to be surrounded by like-minded, or have a roommate, or live in an area where there's sort of certain people, yeah, that align more to your lifestyle. Maybe you find out that's the opposite for you. Maybe you live in the middle of a city and it's too busy for you, and you realize that most of your energy is wasted on just trying to recover, trying to regain sort of this connection with yourself, yeah, by needing to check out from all this. Those are all sort of personal choices that we are being asked to make now, because right here in this collective development, and also these full moon energies, we really want to get to this place where we can say goodbye to our old ways, out of our inner inside, not because it's better to do this, or people say this, or the stock market people say that, and spiritual people say that, and science says that. No, because we can organically feel this in ourselves, what is better for us. Yeah, like, where do I want to invest my money? It depends on how you see money. Okay, if you see money as an energy and as a tool, for example, to produce more, energetically conducive conditions for yourself and others, you might want to invest money into properties, into land where you can build something, maybe where you can grow foods, where you can create social projects, where you can provide a place of healing for other people. Yeah, if you need to get rid of money. If you live in a place where you say maybe already have that, maybe you want to invest your money into building, like a place where other people can come and experience more joy, more love. Yeah, maybe you want to open up a cafe, or a little herbal shop where you add all you put all the love that you have for what it is that you're doing into the place. Maybe you want to do all this for a relationship. Maybe you open yourself up for a deeper connection with other people, like say in a romantic relationship, or through friendships. Maybe you find a group of people that you realize that you can collaborate with to create something even greater than yourself. The bottom line is, guys, is that we need to move ourselves out of this inflation momentum that is here. Yeah, so we won't be able to prevent inflation to happen at the financial level. That is sort of part of these dynamics. Yeah, it's a weather condition. Yeah, so that weather front has to move through our collective, and that's going to take a few years. Yeah, so that is a given already. Now you need to ask yourself to harmonize this. You need to ask yourself, how can I best work with this? Yeah? How can I maybe mitigate damage. Yeah, how can I do damage control? Or how can I actually thrive in this? There is a lot of money that is being made in crisis, guys. And unfortunately, it's usually, the rich people who make the most money in crisis, because they don't see crisis as this disaster. We, as the individuals that feel powerless, yeah, we see it as a disaster. And that's why we make bad choices in times of crisis. And that's why, we need to move into a little more harmonized place with ourselves and recognize, okay, this is all, something that is like a weather condition that is going on. I have to, maybe put a coat on now, or maybe I have to collaborate with others, or maybe I need to change things in my life that allow me to become more flexible, yeah, and to be less dependent, yeah, to add more freedom to my life so that I can be more mobile, say, or, be less sort of anxious about losing what I have. So this is not easy to convey, guys, because at the end of the day, what we all need to do here is to see through the inflation of all of this, and also the ego fears that come with that. Yeah, so there's this picture that I've used in the past where, there's this big ego bubble, right, with the needle that bursts this ego bubble. It's a little different this time, yeah, because our ego is definitely involved in this, but because these outer conditions, yeah, our societal ego bubble, our collective ego is inflated right now. We have to be more concise here and understand our role in all this. So in very simple words, guys, calm yourself down. Make sure that you keep an eye on what you truly need, what you truly want now, based on who you are now. Collaboration is supported, yeah, and collaboration on all levels. In other words, also the collaboration with yourself, the collaboration with your true self, with your soul self, yeah, that you sometimes lose, that you sometimes disconnect from when you get pulled into the other extreme, yeah, where you just see yourself as sort of a machine, or a machine-like being, or material only. So this visual here of the Versica Pisces, with these two circles conjoined like a Venn diagram, yeah, that is basically the metaphysical yeah, representation of this energetic movement here in the next week, from the 16th to the 22nd of April. And it is no coincidence that this is where the Easter time falls. Again, here, the Easter is not per se a religious holiday. It is linked to our lunar cycle, and therefore, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere, also linked to our seasonal changes. But it is a beautiful time to contemplate about what these three elements of Easter that I broke down for you in the energetic secrets of Easter. Yeah, this letting go of the old, yeah, the Last Supper, and then the refraining, the suffering through this discomfort whenever we start making changes, and the metamorphosis, the resurrection aspect of that, the rebirth aspect of that. Those are very, very practical phases of transformation, guys. Yeah, so we all go through the initial letting go, then the rock bottom, the needing to readjust, yeah, and allow our little ego death to happen, so that we can then rebirth, yeah, resurrect ourselves. And the way this happens on a spiritual level is that we bring back balance into our life. Yeah, most of us have been too material in their attitude to life, and we need to bring back that soul connection now. So this is the overall energy. I hope that my words were sufficient to give you an idea of the magnitude of this, yeah, and all this happening on those different dimensions of being, yeah, within us internally, yeah, as well as collectively. So when you look at things like war, when you look at things like financial crisis, when you look at things like Corona, maybe look at it from that perspective of uncontrolled growth and sort of cancerous activity, because that is nature's way to regulate inflation. Yeah, and what needs to happen then is a reduction. Yeah, is a change of the environment. Yeah, when it comes to actual cancer, we need to shift our environment from acidic to alkaline. Yeah, because the acidity of our metabolic functions is what promotes the growth. Yeah, so maybe you can think of that as like negative inner self-talk as being very acidic. Yeah, and see where you can change that within your life. Maybe you can change your nutrition, as a very practical thing, and use this Easter week here now as maybe a detox, yeah, a clearing. And maybe you want to go into fasting. I mean, if you have been aligned to religious traditions around Easter, then you may have already done that. Yeah, there's a reason for that, because it helps us to reconvene with our soul self that has chosen to be in this 3D reality. Yeah, so that is then fundamentally this Easter energy. If you would like to do this with me in the setting of a remote energy session, then please take advantage of the free Connect with Your True Self session, which happens tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern US time. There are many ways for us to work together on a personal level, many different programs and courses that I have. Check them out on my website, transcodes.com. And if you would like to know what it's like to have an energy coaching session, then email me at jona@transcodes.com to schedule your free initial energy coaching session. So for now, here on this Good Friday, I wish you happy Easter. I wish you a good resurrection weekend. I wish you a week that allows you to recognize where in your life things are inflated, where they're extreme and thus unsustainable, yeah, and how you can bring more balance back in. See you very soon. Bye-bye, everyone.